The headset is and remains the most popular audio device for gaming, and for good reasons. It's very convenient for both the person using it and the people around them who don't have to hear every gunshot, every engine roar or explosion that's occurring in-game. They also have the benefit of virtual surround sound, which is a rather inexpensive way to increase immersion, right? Now this is all true, and we don't mean to knock the headset off its pedestal, indeed we don't think we could, but we do feel obligated to point out that stereo speakers are still a very viable solution for gaming, especially if we're talking high-end stuff. Their larger drivers and dedicated subwoofers make them leagues ahead of headsets when it comes to accurately reproducing a wider range of frequencies, and they can sound more immersive than virtual surround sound just by the merit of their expanded soundstage. It's similar to the change you experience when going from earbuds to headsets. Plus, the price-to-performance ratio that speakers share with headsets is not too different from the one that desktop PCs have going on with laptops. This is also something that we see that's constantly overlooked. So if you've decided that for whatever reason your gaming rig needs stereo speakers, then you're in luck, because in this video we'll go through the 7 best options currently available on the market. As far as prices go, we've made sure to cover both the low end and the high end, and we've also included both 2.0 and 2.1 configuration models. So without any further ado, let's begin. This time, we'll kick things off with a rather humble model, the Acoustics CA2014 RB. These are one of the most speakery looking speakers we've seen, with a very compact and inconspicuous design packed with only the bare necessities, these being a volume knob, a power button, and a headphone jack. They're rather basic, but unlike many of the poor quality models that permeate the $20 price range, they're quite reliable, which makes their value skyrocket as far as we're concerned. Now, we don't want to oversell you on the CA2014 RB. They have a flimsy build. They're still somewhat underpowered, and in fact, if your monitor has built-in speakers, they're about as good as these, maybe just an insignificant bit worse. But if you want a basic and affordable solution that's still reliable, we don't think you'll find a model better than this one. Needless to say, these speakers don't have a dedicated subwoofer. Now for something a bit more serious, we present the Avantree SP750. This may look like another simple pair of speakers at first glance, but they're actually quite advanced, both inside and out. They sport a good-looking, high-quality build with a meshed front, and they also come packed with both dual drivers and Bluetooth capabilities. They weren't designed for gaming in particular, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as some of the gaming speakers can be too attention-grabby. You shouldn't expect amazing sound quality, as these speakers are still firmly planted in the affordable price range, but they still sound pretty good. Definitely a step up from the CA2014 RB, and definitely any built-in solution. Just don't expect a thundering bass, as these are only 2.0 configuration speakers. And for our final 2.0 speakers, we have the Companion 2 Series 3 by Bose. Once again, these look like your standard run-of-the-mill 2.0 speakers, but they're made by Bose, a very respectable company in the audio industry, and they cost around $100, putting them quite clearly ahead of the competition. And in all fairness, they live up to the name. Even without a separate subwoofer, these speakers do an admirable job of reproducing lows very accurately, and we have nothing bad to say about the sound quality that's presented here. But we do want to point out that this is something of a niche product, simply due to the fact that no matter how good they are at reproducing lows, they'll never feel as punchy as speakers with a dedicated subwoofer, even ones that cost less. So the way we see it, the Companion 2 Series 3 is ideal for those who want the best audio quality possible, but don't want to deal with the bulkiness of a subwoofer. There are a couple of reasons we could think that would make someone actively avoid a subwoofer, most notably that it makes the speakers more portable and takes up less space. That said, if this isn't the case for you, then there really is no reason not to opt for a 2.1 speaker, especially if you're working with a $100 budget already. Now for our first 2.1 configuration speakers, we'd like to once again start off small, this time with the Creative A250. This isn't a flagship product by any means, but it's still one of the best examples that we've seen when it comes to balancing affordability with quality. It's a shame aesthetic appeal wasn't thrown into the mix, as it's glaringly obvious that sound quality was the only thing on the manufacturer's mind when designing these. But for the low price of $30, this can easily be forgotten. Overall, you can expect the A250 to comfortably fill an average room with sound that's quite decent. It is still a budget solution after all, but the sound quality is nice. The subwoofer may not be powerful enough to compete with any of the other ones that you'll see in this video, but it's still miles ahead of what 2.0 speakers in this price range have to offer. All in all, if you're looking to install the most affordable 2.1 configuration that still sounds good, the A250 is your best bet. And now for something truly gaming worthy, we present to you the Genius SW G2.0 2000. If you're a gamer and you want everyone who walks into your room to know it, we can think of no better speakers for you than these. The LED lights, the detail, the scorpion logo, they've got it all. Plus, in addition to the two speakers and the subwoofer, they also come with a handy separate control unit with volume and bass knobs and all the inputs that you could want. This becomes even better when you take into account how compact all the components really are, meaning that you can arrange them however you see fit and still have the volume knob right next to you. And while the SWG 2.1 2000 may rest comfortably over the $100 mark, they're still not overpriced for what they offer. The satellites sound good and the subwoofer is stupidly powerful. In fact, it's so powerful that it can honestly make the satellites sound bad in comparison. Still, if the aggressive gaming exterior is exactly what you're looking for, then we can think of nothing to complain about, except maybe that we'd like it if the satellites weren't so overshadowed by the subwoofer. And next up, we have the CA2014RB's much more accomplished cousin, the Acoustics CA3602A. In terms of component arrangement, it's the same as the Genius speakers we've just seen, with two speakers, a subwoofer, and a dedicated control unit, making them very convenient for desktop use. But there are a lot of differences between the two regarding both the exterior design and the sound quality. Whereas the Genius solution had an aggressive gamer appeal to it, this Acoustics model follows a much more minimal design philosophy. The subwoofer is basically just a black box, and while the glossy dual driver satellites do give off an impression of quality, they aren't all that distracting. And as for the sound quality, it's way above what the price would suggest. The volume can be cranked up louder than you should ever crank up a speaker if you care about your hearing at all, without any noticeable distortion at that, and the bass has some real power behind it. There's still only $50 speakers, so even with a sound that normally warrants a higher price tag, they won't impress any veteran audiophile. But for the purposes of video gaming or even home cinema, the CA3602A is more than good enough. And then there's Logitech. You should all know by now what to expect from Logitech. If not, then we're probably coming off as somewhat partial towards it in these videos. But trust us, we are not exaggerating. And the Z623 is proof. It's got everything we've come to expect from Logitech. The look, the sound, and the overall aura of high quality. Again, there is a subwoofer, two speakers, and a control unit. The audio here is clean and crisp, and the subwoofer is capable of dishing out some true earth-shattering lows that will set your heart racing. The only thing we could possibly construe as a negative would be the price. Not because it's not worth it, that's definitely not it, but simply because you'll be better off getting a more affordable solution unless you plan on truly getting the most out of it. As a side note, you can also pay a little extra to buy a bundled Bluetooth adapter. We like how this is an optional purchase because it's definitely not for everyone, but it's great that you can count on it should you need it. And now all that's left is to pick out the model that's best suited to your needs and preferences. And as a final note, we'd like to give you a few tips that we think would be helpful to keep in mind when deciding on which speakers to buy. Specifically, we'd like to say a bit about the output power, the 2.0 and 2.1 configurations, and connection types that you'll have available. So let's start with the output power. It's not the most common misconception that the total output power, or RMS power, is what determines the speaker's audio quality, but we've certainly heard it before, and we want to go on record to say that this is incorrect. However, RMS is a good indication of how distortion-free the sound will be. For example, even the 4-watt CA2014RB will be capable of filling an average-sized room with sound no problem, but you can expect the distortion to kick in sooner rather than later when you start turning up the volume. As the RMS gets higher, however, the distortion-free range of loudness increases as well. Additionally, you should stop to think a bit about whether you need a subwoofer in the first place. It's true that the simple 2.0 configuration can never match the punchiness of a subwoofer's bass, but if you don't care that much about immersion, then you probably won't miss their absence. And finally, while there are 3 methods of connecting your speakers to your PC, these being the 5mm connector, the optical cable, and Bluetooth, we don't think that starting up the discussion of which is better is warranted for gamers. Just get whatever's more convenient and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Optical cables are technically the best, and Bluetooth will technically suffer from the lowest sound quality, but none of this is to an extent that matters for gaming. And that about does it for this video. Again, we hope that it helped shed some light onto the value of stereo speakers for gaming, because it truly is something that gets constantly neglected. If you're shooting for immersion and your living arrangement allows for speaker configurations, you'll honestly get a much more immersive experience from 2.1 configurations than you will with a virtual surround sound headset. Anyway, we hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it so we can keep on making more. And also, if you do plan on buying high quality speakers, you should probably consider investing in a sound card as well. We've left a link to our video on sound cards in the description, so be sure to check it out if you want to make sure your audio experience is the best it could possibly be. In the meantime, may your games be fun and your losses few. And as always, we'll see you next time on Gaming Scan.